let's go back on record. We're back on record at 9:29. Who would next like to ask this witness questions?
All right.
Oh, man. Oh.
Uh-oh.
Yes, please.
Morning, Judge.
Good morning.
My name is Jim Sleeper, S-L-E-P-E-R, Jim, J-I-M, Sleeper Consulting. Good morning, Jacob.
Good morning.
Appreciate your concern to ensure dairy farmers who service the Class 1 market get those particular monies and so forth. At the end of the day, aren't you really advocating for individual handler pooling?
I've said, in this process, I feel there's any number of ways we could address this concern everyone talks about, depuoling. I haven't even said it's necessarily a bad thing. There's any number of tools we could use to solve that problem.
Are you aware of any federal order that currently has individual handler pooling provisions?
No,
Do you know the reasons why there aren't any individual handler pools today?
no.
Do you understand or could you provide me some of the benefits, some of the disadvantages of individual handler pools?
In all honesty, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, I assumed your earlier response, you knew what I was talking about. Individual handler pool is basically where dairy farmers receive the actual utilization of an individual plant. So if I was shipping to Crystal Farms, and if you're 80% Class 1 and 20% other, I would get 80% of the Class 1 price, and the rest would be, so I get a much higher blend price than if it was market-wide pooled, where Federal Order 51 is market-wide pooling, where all of the pounds are included. And so I only get a share of, I think your statistics showed 10% or 17% of the Class 1 market. So I know I'm lecturing here, and I apologize, but basically I get your individual handler Class 1 utilization.
I get the concept. I guess it hasn't really been brought forward by USDA and didn't think it was on the list of things to talk about.
Okay, you're correct. I'm just simply stating the fact it appears when I read your testimony, I hear your cross-examination, you're really advocating for individual handler pooling, but I'll move on. Okay, one last one. Crystal Farms, I kind of view as a campus in terms of your processing. You have lots of Class 1, you've got Class 4 with your dryer, et cetera, et cetera. Hypothetically, if a plant such as that would have an individual receiving bay, say for the dryer, would that milk be priced differently, and would you be able to have the ability to depool then?
You don't know. Don is over there. He's really mean. He audits me bad, like bad. I can only imagine the day when I sent a load of Class 4 milk to the Class 1 side, and the mess it would be. I understand the concept, but I don't want the liability of you did something to the pool, now you owe everyone in the state of California because the milk receiver did something weird. I understand the concept, and I've kind of looked at it, but I don't want the liability. I pay millions of dollars into the pool every month just because I want to be on the up and up.
Okay, thank you, Jacob.
Before I ask Agricultural Marketing Service what questions they have, is there anyone else who has questions for this witness? I now ask Agricultural Marketing Service to ask any questions they have of this witness.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I do try to make this pretty painless.
Okay.
Like you didn't want me to ask you questions. Thank you for coming to testify yesterday and staying over for today. I did have a question on your just makeup of Crystal Creamery. You have direct shippers and co-op supplied milk, correct?
And also independent manufacturers.
Okay, So can you give us a rough breakdown of percentage-wise, how much milk comes from those three categories?
I'd say a third-ish maybe is direct ship, and then how you want to do the rest. Is it really an independent through a paper co-op? Whatever.
But you payroll for a third of your milk, basically.
Yeah. I don't have the pool report in front of me, but we could bring it up.
Yep, roughly. Okay, and then so how many direct shippers do you have, if I may ask?
I don't know that number off the top of my head. I would say it wrong, but it's in California. It might be 20 trucks a day, but it's probably a number of 10 or something like that. And then I had a number of organics and things that are much smaller farms.
So your direct ships are both conventional and organic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That was a yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Judge Clifton. So I wanted to turn to your statement, page 3. That's Exhibit 267. And in the bottom of your first paragraph, I'll read the sentence because I wanted to ask you to expand on it a little bit. Other adjusters that maintain higher up are simply unhedgeable with existing tools available and formulas that update the fixed adjuster on an annual date are convenient to talk about in a hearing setting, but needlessly cumbersome when trying to actually place hedge orders 6 months out. Just would like you to expand on that.
I would first like to say, so what I'm talking about is the higher of, and we talked about risk management and how I'd love to, USDA has a bid for a food program, give them a delivered price for, October 1 to September 30, don't worry about it. I feel that helps me there. The other ones, the MIG group came to, it gets kind of clunky, so now let's say it's a wonderful world. The government says, I'm going to find the government tomorrow, and the WIC program got all this money, and we want to buy milk on a fixed price contract because we don't like the volatility. When I do my hedge, I'm going to have, depending on when I start it and when it sets and the information available at the time, it gets a little clunky. When that December reset happens, if I try to enter my hedge in April or something, I don't have all the information, so now I've got to do some things. That said, that's not a hill to die on. If we want to go with the IDFA proposal, that's wonderful too. Just said if I had to pick one, that's it. But if IDFA, I'm happy with that as well.
You just find the base part, so either some form of the average of is more hedgeable in your opinion than the higher of.
Yes.
And whether it's a fixed adjuster updated at some interval or a rolling one as proposed by MIG, that's not a make or break it for you.
No, not at all.
And when you're talking your hedges, there seem to be particularly focused on government contracts or school lunches, things
those are the customers who complain the most because they can't pass the price on. They have a budget, they can't do it.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we're clear. So that is more on that side, less on the retail customer side.
Absolutely, yeah. We've trained our grocery stores well. Whether or not it's the best way to sell the milk is a side topic, but it's.
Okay, and then I'm not sure if I caught the answer to the question then. Do you currently hedge let me say a sentence. Do you currently hedge at all, provide that service for any of your customers?
We do a lot of fixed price ice cream contracts, so we can level set your ice cream contract. And again, that's something we've grown over time. We're very comfortable with. We do a lot. We don't do anything in the Class 1 space today, but I'd like to do more.
Okay, and I think I heard you say you were able to do ice cream because you used like butter futures.
Yes.
Right. Okay. In your example you provided, you have, this is at the bottom of 3, and then some of that's on your slide deck as well. I'm just curious why you didn't include class 2. I just want to make it clear for the record why it's not in there.
Keeping it simple. This is, when we introduce class 2, and then all of a sudden I introduce, class 1 really isn't priced on 3-4. It's priced on the advanced mover, and now we start introducing 30 moving pieces, and it's hard to kind of isolate a concept, and that's what I was just trying to do here.
I can appreciate that sentiment. You talked about through your examples, and I'll focus on the one on page 3. You said, well, when the class 3 price is high, those plants will depool because it's higher than the blend, and then they can pay their producers the class 3 price, and everybody else whose pool gets the blend price.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess who guarantees that those producers get that class 3 price?
No one, and I believe we've had a lot of testimony to that.
Okay, so they can depool, but there's no guarantee that the producers get the money.
No, there's not a guarantee that the producers get the money.
Can we look at the bottom of page 3? If we go to the right side of your chart under the average, so your first section deals with when the cheese example of when cheese depools.
Mm-hmm.
The second section deals with the example of when the powder depools.
Yes.
And then what is the third? Can you go over what that third kind of set of columns is?
Yeah, so what I'm showing here is that you've received a lot of testimony about 2020 in this, about what those bad cheese people did to the blend price. And then I'm talking about today, the powder people are doing the same thing. And then if you look at it on a long-term average, the one who's getting the short end of the stick is the direct shipper to a fluid plant. Because they can't depool. They never get their day in the sun.
Okay, so can you just go over how your numbers here is telling me that?
Again, it's just a simple average to say that when class 3 depools, let's hope maybe those producers did a little better than the blend. And when class 4 depools, let's hope those producers did a little better than the blend. I can't depool. I never get my chance to do a little better than the blend.
I understand the concept. I really do.
Okay.
But I still don't grasp what the numbers when you say 45% class 3 utilization, 45% class 4 utilization, and 10% class 1 utilization gives me a blend of 1549. I understand how that number was calculated based on the prices above.
That column is just a simple average of the other two columns. So yeah, if you look at cheese and its depool month and its powder depool month, it's 20 and then 15. On average, it was 1750. You look at, in the inverse for powder, on average, the two manufacturing classes were 1750. The blend is always the lowest price.
So they are an average of the rows, not the average of the columns.
Yes. So that's everything there is just an average of the rows.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We only get one opportunity to ask you these questions, and then we go back to DC and look at this stuff and think, oh man,
All
I
right,
didn't ask him about this. Now we
I'm
don't
not
know
that
what
hard
it
to
is.
find. I guess it's not on record.
No,
It's
I can't call you.
All right.
It's not permitted.
That's
All
right.
right.
We get one shot, and this is it.
Okay.
What is wonderful, to the extent the questions are forward-looking, and they bring up topics that will not be decided by the secretary based on the evidence here. It's very exciting to see all the different potential for the future. I'm just saying.
You're talking like me now.
So, and then on the last page of your statement, you say if USDA were to raise the black base class 1 skim price, it would make it harder to track milk for fluid use. And that's the opposite goal of federal orders. And so the only proposal USDA should accept in mix. So and you did discuss this a little bit with Dr. Bozick, but I still didn't get my brain
Okay.
you two. So let me ask this question. MIG and your members are contending that their proposal is roughly revenue neutral to the higher of proposal of National Milks.
Yeah.
So given that, I don't understand how this proposal, MIG's proposal, solves your issue as you've described it here.
It does not whatsoever, but it helps hedge. And if you want my opinion on which one I like more, it's the average of, not the higher of.
Okay, so you're supporting the hedging.
I'm just laying down a counter argument to some of the things that were said about the benefits of the higher of, and I want to tell the room that's not going to solve your problems. If you think I'm going to do this and people are going to stop complaining about depooling, they won't. You know, I guess it's more to that.
Thank you.
Yep.
And then I wrote down, I think this is my last question. I wrote down how you had talked about in some cross-examination about right now, given current prices, right? Butter prices are high, so milk wants to go to butter. Milk isn't going to butter right now. It's going to cheese, and it's going to cheese because cheese is getting a pool subsidy, which you had some discussion about. That's the payment from the pool so they can pay the blend.
Yes.
Okay. So, but what is preventing the cheese plant from deciding, or the co-op supplying the cheese plant, I'm gonna not put it in cheese, I'm gonna sell it to this butter plant over here and get this higher class 4 price?
No, I want them to. I think they should. When I've run manufacturing plants, like I said, if I could get the money, you know, someone was selling cheese on the exchange right now. I don't know what happened today, but yesterday they did. If I were a cheese plant, which I have worn that hat before in this industry, here's what I would do to make money. One, I would say, you know what, the cheddar price is $1.70 or whatever, but when you look at what's happening in butter, it's gonna be really cheap to make reduced fat cheddar. So I would go to my sales guys and I'd say, you know, you go call everyone in the world, tell them that reduced fat cheddar is on sale next week. You call them up, tell them to do a promo, and we're gonna put you on the schedule. How many pounds can I get you for? And what that's going to do is allow me as a cheese processor to offer a lower price to my customer. Maybe they want it. And then really, I'm going to spin off a load of cream and sell it for a 140 multiple and make a ton of money. And that's what the market needs right now. Similarly, my customer could say, you know what? You need to sell me 10 trucks a week of cheese because that's our contract. And I could say, okay, how about this? How about I, you know, give you a George Washington, a little $1 100-weight across the table. You go buy your cheese from the exchange. I'll go sell my milk to a powder plant for $18. Everyone walks away the wiser. That's the types of things that should be happening in the marketplace.
And so my question is then, I mean, what I'm taking from your testimony is somehow federal orders are preventing that from happening, and I'm trying to understand how that, your logic on how that is happening.
So, at least in the California order, of the money we have, 90% of it is going to the cheese plant. So if I run my cheese plant and I don't have pooling, I only get that class 3 price, which is low. But if I run my cheese plant and I pool it, maybe I get an extra $1 or $2 from the pool, and that helps me keep my dairy farmers viable. So I run my plant. But if that didn't exist, maybe I could make money for them another way.
But what's preventing them from just saying, "Oh, I'm going to go sell my milk to the butter plant for $18. That's still a better deal than the $15 they could have gotten through the pool in total."
Absolutely, and we talked about that with the make allowances. If you can cover your make allowance and do that, I think you should. It's called arbitrage. It's how markets work. But yeah, the slope between their pay price is muted if they can pool versus not pool with the blend money.
Okay. That's it from AMS. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Thank you so much. You may step down.
Oh, no.
Oh, wait, I
Not
forgot about
so
redirect.
fast.
I forgot.
He did such a good job. It was a good assumption there might not be much.
Okay. Uh-oh.
You talked about arbitrage with Ms. Taylor.
Yes.
Your situation, having the powder plant and the fluid plant, is very unusual, is it not?
It's something you would only build in a California milk order. You would never build it in a federal order.
And most of the plants in the country have responded to the current regulatory structure of the federal orders.
That is correct.
And so almost every other powder plant has the opportunity to depool and arbitrage.
Yes.
Under the current system.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Now I invite redirect.
Thank you. I just wanted to finish off with the questions that Ms. Taylor was asking you about the slope and make sure that I understand it as well. And so your point isn't that FMMOs prevent the economic signals that would move cheese to butter or powder in that situation. It's that they make them less extreme, or they dampen those signals from what they would be without that impact. Is that right?
Yes.
You had talked in your testimony on in your PowerPoint on slide 8, which is exhibit 268. And Mr. Miltner had asked you about the 1.4 million or billion class 4 pounds in that example. Did you intend to suggest that that milk was all actually pooled in July of 2023?
No, it was not. It was just a rough estimate of what class 4 is a lot of days in production wise, not pool wise, production wise. And in the example, I was trying to draw it all into the pool.
So your example was asking us to assume that all of the class 3 and the class 4 milk was in the pool for purposes of demonstrating the impact of the class 1 price.
Yes.
And you had talked about earlier about the issue of on page 2 of your testimony, when talking about your supply, you talked about class 3 or 4 manufacturers supplying milk for pooling access. Is that a common practice for class 1 processors to purchase milk for that purpose?
Yes.
Just in California or in other orders?
Everywhere. So if you read the federal order language in any order, here's what we do and here's how we do it.
So class 3 and 4 accessing the pool is part of the bread and butter of federal orders.
Absolutely.
And you had mentioned also that you have one site, but we did hear you say plants plural. So can you just give us a little overview of your operations and either the manufacturing lines, kind of the buildings, like how does that all work?
So our other manufacturing plant I didn't talk about much is a smaller plant in Humboldt, California that we do powder and ice cream with. It's a non-pool plant. We never pool it. It's organic and it's small and it's quirky and it makes the greatest fluid milk on the planet and the greatest organic ice cream on the planet, and I could go on about that. It's a fun place to visit. I recommend everyone go there.
But you've been primarily talking about
Yes.
your main operation.
Our main operation is the bulk of everything.
And so tell us what you do again at that main operation.
We do everything. So again, we have the dryer where we make various milk powders. We have a butter operation. We have ice cream operation where we do a variety of lines. We have cottage cheese vats, sour cream, buttermilk, fluid milk. You know, you could go on forever.
And these are all different lines or buildings on, I like the description of the campus.
Yes, we have 17 different milk filling stations and you name it.
And then lastly, you had mentioned or used this phrase that I really liked, that as an industry, we must be gracious and humble to the customer. What did you mean by that?
Well, they're the one paying for it, so we need to be respectful of that. We can't take them, you know, for granted. We need to look out for their public interest as well here.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Admission into evidence of exhibits.
I
All
just
right,
wanted
good.
to make sure there was no recross.
People are not wiggling.
Great. So I would move that exhibits 267 and 268 be admitted into evidence.
Is there any objection? There is none. Exhibit 267 is admitted into evidence. Exhibit 268 is admitted into evidence. And now you may step down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the Milk Innovation Group would call as its next witness Mike Newell with
Miss-
HP Hood.
Ms. Fullen, we do have one dairy farmer here, and
Oh.
I'd like for him to be able to go on next.